Welcome everyone to the fourth and last art talk in this spring semester season here at the Department of Fine Arts of the Zurich University of the Arts. My name is Gabrielle Schad. I'm a research associate at the department and your host in these art talks. It's my pleasure to welcome staff members as always. Also warm welcome and shout out to the head of department and head of bachelor programs, Svetlana Hager-Davis and Raphael Gigax. And of course to our guest tonight, Annika Ström, who has been attending almost all other talks as well. So I feel like we've come away together. That's really nice. Just a few informations as usual around this format. This talk will be recorded and forwarded to interested parties upon request. So if you do not want to be visible with your video or with your name, please change your name or just dive under the visual radar. Then the talk will last for about 45 to 50 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A. I will moderate. If you dare, you can also speak for yourself. Otherwise, I will read your questions out loud. And I will probably come up with some questions as well. So before Annika starts her lecture, I'd like to introduce her a little bit for those who aren't yet so familiar with her long-standing practice. Annika Ström is a Swedish-born artist based in London. Her works unfold across different media, predominantly in film and soundtracks, site-specific performances, textual work, and painting. Her film practice is often autobiographical, lacing an intense focus on the everyday with moments of fiction and absurdism. She has written a feature film, directed 2 shorts, and is currently writing a novel along with her 100 painting project. Annika Ström studied at the Royal Academy of Fine Art in Copenhagen. Before moving to the UK, she lived for 12 years in Berlin. Annika's first solo show was in New York in 1997, and she has exhibited with many galleries, museums, and independent institutions. Public acquisitions of her work include the Migros Museum for Gegenwartskunst in Zurich, Moderna Museet, the Wiener Sessesion, MoCa in Belgrade, Caac in Seville, and the Sammlung, Verbund, Vienna, and the gallery in Leicester. So this just as a brief introduction. I'm really happy you are with us tonight, share insights and your time, and I would just hand the word over to you, Annika.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Svetlana. And yes, so that was actually, now I have sun in my face here. The thing was, I think Nils Röller is here, and I'm not sure, but one of my very, very first shows was actually in his apartment in Berlin, and it's fun to see you here. And anyway, so I was saying that 97 there was my first commercial gallery show, but I actually did another one when I arrived to Berlin 93, and 95 I made my first performance work ever, and it was a program that gallery had called Rupert Goldsworthy Gallery, and he was asking me to do a performance for a weekend. And I had lots of problems, and one of my problems was my mother, so I thought that I exhibit my mother. And now I'm just going to present my performance work on this talk. So I'm concentrating on that. But So I asked my mother to come down, and just because the workshop will be about mothers and fathers, I thought that I start with that. So I asked my mother to come down to Berlin for this weekend, and she is not an artist, or she was not an artist, and she had not made a drawing for 45 years. And now I'm going to share the screen. Let's see if I can do that. And here we have, oh, that was wrong. So can you see that? Is that correct? Yeah, okay. So my mother sat in this gallery to make drawings of me. And as I said, she was not an artist. And I made it very comfortable for her, and she took her task very, very seriously. She was always on and on about the way I looked when I was, this is 95, and I was often wearing a kind of vintage clothes and sort of kind of alternative clothing. And so I made sure that she would not be bothered about the way I was looking. So I dressed myself the way she would like me to look. And she began to do her drawings, and this is one of the images. And I have a little clip here, which I'm going to show you. This is 95, so it's very 90s. So she made each drawing while I was watching her. She was watching me. Of course, this is a work about your being in the possession of your mother, or the Abbildung of your mother, and how to break through that. And she made these drawings, and she sold them for 5 D-mark. At the time it was D-mark. And after a while, her ego developed, and she became, the drawings were very expensive. And here I have jewelry of what she likes. So this was really, this is up in Prenzlauer Berg, Brunnenstraße, very Berlin. So during this time, I was also reflecting, of course, about her, and made my, I wrote a little, I did a little booklet about my impressions. But from that on, I realized my mother was cool, that she accepted anything. And after that, I had her in about another 15 films. She always said yes to my suggestions. And I go forward a little bit here, but she even sort of compared herself a little bit with Matisse after a while. So these were the images. And after that, I started to think that that was a very good idea to work with performance. And because of that invitation, I had to get away from the lighting. For that invitation, I was, something came out of that, and that was the first time I ever felt that I was connected to something from my biography that I could use. So then I began to make lots of music to my films, and that was because I had heard this kind of copyright horror, and so I thought that I better make the music myself, but I'm not a musician. So, but I liked to sing, and I had been singing in some kind of teenage bands and things. But I started to be invited to do concerts with my music, and I made these songs. And one of the song records, actually, they're called the Artist Musical, the very best of artist songs. And the film was called The Artist Musical. And at one point, 1997, I was invited to a really hardcore artist making music event in Oslo. And I was very happy for that, but I felt exhausted at the time, and I thought, no, I don't want to do it. So I found this guy. At that time, it was not any internet, emails and, Facebook. So I had to go to the music library in Berlin to ask for somebody to stand in for me. And I had one answer, and that was Dirk. And he was then, he did an audition, and he went, took his tuxedo and he went to Oslo and he performed, and this is the recording for that. So we take one song from that. The very best of artist songs. Can you hear me? Well, it's good. Yeah, he had great success there, and I felt that was a really good thing to do, to have somebody else to do my performances. And so we are moving over to a new other work, which is a big jump, and that was this work called Tenenbaum's Men, which I did for an art fair in London called Frieze Art Fair. Frieze Art Fair is where all the galleries goes, and they rent a booth, and it's extremely expensive. In order to have a booth, you have to sell, and at that time, and now it has really changed, the last 5 years specifically, I think. But 2010, you could say that 85%, I would say, of the work in this commercial art world at the art fairs, the most of the work was work made by men. So that upset me, of course, and I thought that I can try to do something about it. So I was invited by this curator to do something, so I thought that I could combine that, highlight the fact that the emotion, embarrassment is such an interesting emotion, or happening even in your body when it happens to you, because you get embarrassed and then you have to overcome that very quickly because it's so unbearable. It's a very physical emotion, or I don't know have a good word for it, but your brain starts to progress to try to break down this horrific feeling. But I thought that these men, they could be embarrassed for 5 days, 8 hours a day. So I hired these 10 actors to look embarrassed all these days. And I have a very small clip here, but where they walk around. So they were cruising around the art fair for these days, and lots of people saw them and thought they were some kind of community center or from something. But they were embarrassed because there were so few works of their sisters and mothers and daughters at representing women's work in the art fair. So that was the highlight, but I hope that the work could be about lots of other things, and I think it was hilarious to watch them. We go to next work. Then I got 2011 an invitation in Berlin by a friend of mine, Lotte Möller. She runs a small space, and still she does that, in Prenzlauer Berg, and it's a 5 square meters little space with one door. And I like these things to do some project like that. So I thought I was standing in the way in one occasion, and I thought 7 of me would be interesting maybe. And then but they have to be a little bit older, because the audience were younger. They visited to this gallery, they were younger. So I thought they had to stick out. And I think, and this was not in Berlin, this is another occasion, because I've done this 18 times, this performance piece. Gabriele? Oh, I have to stop share. No? we return to this. Am I on picture? Okay. I don't know how. Okay. Okay, so you hear me, right? Yeah. So that was a specific place in somewhere in England, and this women's task is, I'm going to read now, because every time I do this performance, you manage to pass them, and then you will find out what's all about by a big poster. They should be over 65 years old. While they are standing in the way, they should never appear aggressive, but simply oblivious to the fact that they are standing in the way. If people want to pass, they should not give way at first, not until they appear to become aware that someone wants to pass. Then they can make way, but they must never be aggressive about it. They should stand together all the time, chatting and drinking. They can be loud, but they shouldn't be too noisy, nor should they seek attention. If anyone asks them anything, they should ignore the question, but if someone insists, they should reveal that they are part of the show and that they are the 7 women standing in the way. So I've done this 18 times now in different places, and it's always different, but hilarious, actually. And this specific one was fun because it was young curators who had lots of friends from London. On the train, they had hired a train, apparently with 700 people coming, and the women were there standing, and there was a long, long queue outside until it was revealed that these women were standing in the way, and they found another way in. And now we go to another man who is very, very upset. And this is also a work I made many times, or 5 times, I think. And I jump a little bit. He is extremely upset. But when I showed this the first time, in Dublin, I had then built a stage, and behind the stage there was a text. It says something like, I never said that, I have never said that, tell me when I said that. He keeps on saying the same script. But in Dublin was a problem because they're very jolly and cheerful there, and so they couldn't hear him, what he was saying, or maybe they'd even noticed him because it was very crowded. So I had to ask the staff to have speeches, which was even better.
I just want to say thanks very much to Annika Ström and Team Caac for creating the exhibition, and to my colleague friends and to Annika as well for putting all this together. You're very welcome to leave that space. Draw your attention to the fire exit. You text in a hurry, it's over there. So yeah, have a good night and thanks very much. Thank you.
I don't know if I made it clear, but this was not announced that he was. It was never announced that he was an upset man, and that it was a performance. But it became clear after a while, and then the very last, if somebody didn't understand that he was the performer, and he got 5 minutes of fame in the very end to show his acting skills. But the third speech there is that suddenly the actor who is hired, he got so confused when she whisked him away, so he stopped playing acting, which was yeah. So even she got confused in this situation. I go to another one. I'm going through the very quickly, I hope. So here is another one. I'm going to read the instruction. This is more announced in the way that actually the six lovely people have numbers on their jackets. Dear six lovely people, thanks for taking part in this performance. You are here to act lovely. You are friendly, lively, optimistic, positive, jolly, charming and kind. You are well-mannered and polite to everybody. You make everyone feel as if they were really, really interesting, and everything they say is really fascinating. If they ask you what you do, you answer, but quickly return the focus back to them. When a visitor interacts with you, you're friendly no matter what they ask. If someone tries to provoke you, you remain lovely. If anyone asks you about the performance, tell them that you are an actor and that you are one of the 6 numbered people in Annika's performance, 6 lovely people. And this was a project in London where each artist had a week to do something, and I thought that I would do a really good opening. And here we go, a little clip. Yeah, so you could walk up to them and talk to them, and after a while, when you were watching them, you were watching everybody else, and everybody was lovely. So there were even mistakes between the people that who is actually employed to be so lovely. And of course, this is a work, I think, about having some kind of cropped personality, that you're always pleasing and lovely to everybody else, and maybe you never have any questions back to you, and nobody's really never interested in you, so you keep on being this pleasant person to everybody. And of course, this is a networking event, an art opening, and you are there many times maybe to promote yourself. So they were extra nice in that manner, that you could have the chance to what can I say, to promote and talk about yourself. And of course, it's a work about being sincere. But that's up to you to see. And here is one of the jackets. This is a kind of a self-portrait, because when I finished school, I was horrified and scared of my future. And I'm going to read the instruction for this performance piece. Dear young actors, thank you so much for taking part in this performance. You have studied the art of acting. You have just finished your education. You are full of hope, but also full of fear. You are distracted by your dreams. You are really not suited to work at an event like this. You have no other real skills more than being an actor. When you now serve, you are never unfriendly, but sometimes customer has to repeat their request. You are here for their service, but you are far away. You are filling too much wine in the glass. You fill too little in another. You refill too fast. You spill wine on the floor. You all five are terrible at working together. You top up wine without asking. You sip from some wine yourself. Your fear is that you will stay in this kind of jobs serving wine on other people's great occasions for the rest of your life. And I think Gabrielle is gonna show me. So they are employed serving staff, and as all the other performers as well, it's not announced.
Abstrakte danske. Dansk kunst siden... Og noe av det umiddelbare, nå har ikke jeg fått sett nøye på det nå, men noe av det umiddelbare slår inn med tilbakemeldingen og responsen på en mangfoldig rik produkt. 2015 i Belgrade. Det som egentlig er 15 i gang, har hardt arbeid. Engasjement, ståpåvilje og ideen om livet som kunst, og om kunstens evne til kanskje lå det noe her på Albi, og fra 1800-tallet, siden 90 og utover, så var det mange kunstnere som holdt til her, i bygget som var gående. I 1995 så ble Galleri 15 kontakt. Da Galleri 15 så 3. april 1960 seg meget glede til tiltaket, men også meget spær. Galleriets første år gjennomført 2 utstillinger. Man har gått inn for å fastholde så høy kunstnerisk kvalitet som mulig, og bygge opp store utstillinger og verdifullt idékvalitet. Kunstinteresserte fra Eidsvoll, Drammen, Skien og Oslo hører til galleriets faste utstillingsgjester. Galleriet har konsentrert seg om å vise tidens forskjellige uttrykksformer, fra Jan Heiberg, Wetners, til de helt unge. Det andre har gjennomført et fast utstillingsopplegg med 2 årlige utstillinger. Dette har vært stor interesse, og utstillingene har hatt et kolossalt besøk. Galleriet har gjennomført flere kulturelle tiltak i forbindelse med økonomisk støtte hos teater og kulturnevn. For øvrig kan galleriet glede seg over en positiv innstilling fra Moskva. Fra galleriets første til de senere utstillinger har man hos publikum kunnet stå en vesentlig forandring i oppfattelsen av bildende kunst. For den er ganske innholdsrik, god død, med helårlig utstillingsvirksomhet og formidling. Norsk skole motiverer ikke sine elever for kulturinteresse. Den materielt fattige. Skoleinspektør Oddgeir Hagen Visker, som visstnok er i familien kunstner Visker, så altså skoleinspektør og sier: hvilken plass har Goya og Tolte? Slå opp og se etter.
Yeah, so they are not artists, they were acting students, and they had just finished their drama school. And this also performers have done several times. And yeah, it's not announced, so it's a bit of a confusion. And a bit, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the table looks not so appetizing, and that's a while. So for a while ago, I was invited for another event that to do a performance work in a public space in England somewhere, Leicester. And I thought that because I never done that before, that I bunched the last performance piece I've just shown you, that I thought that maybe they would work together at one specific event for one night. So I hired 29 actors to do the sixth performance called the Sixth Errand. Every performance piece, like the Inept Five or the 10 Embarrassment, they were representing one color. And during the opening, I'm not going to show the whole film, but they were mixed together with all the audience. But I had asked them at the very end, when I put the music on, to grab a flag and walk around the gallery and wave the flag as waving the flag for all the inept people in the world and all the embarrassed men in the world, and waving the flag for all the women standing in the way who's always been considering other people, and what else? All the upset men who never can't wait and have to go into any space and can't wait to get home in a private place to be upset, or and all the, what else did I say? Six lovely people is always lovely to everybody else and always pleasing everybody else. So I said to them, walk like you are in the Olympic Games and you are representing these people. Did you get the, yeah, good. Yes, so that was, I think I made it. It's 43. And I was going to show you the very, very last performance thing I've done. And that is this one, which is something I've done this year. Yeah, that's it. Stop share.
So thank you so much, Annika, for this insight, starting with one of your very first exhibitions and then zooming in on your performative work and just giving us a glimpse at the very end to the variety of your practice. The floor is open for questions now. Please, students, audience, the public, think of questions to address to Annika. In the meantime, as always, I will come up with some questions to bridge the awkward silence. So it's in those performances, it's very relatable topics, I guess, especially for also students in our programs who hasn't done like side jobs and had these fears probably during the studies or even after graduating. And I think with these interpersonal dynamics, sometimes very specific to the art field, but also universally relatable. You're commenting a lot on the dynamics of the art world, but then also expectations. Everyone sets on their own shoulders, and how we're kind of subjected to certain dynamics. Do you want to comment a little more on that? You also said about this crowd pleasers, that this piece is about sincerity. Yeah, maybe you could again elaborate a little bit more on which comment you want to make on these interpersonal dynamics and relationships, emotions taking place in the art field.
Well, often when I do a work, I don't really know what's going to happen. But when I concluded the compilation of these works of the last 6 errands, I could see that is an interest where the art take place, and that's always been an interesting thing. Where is around the gathering around art, and I think when there's kind of short circuit in the situation that reflects where the art and what is art, and I think that I found that very interesting, apparently, because the works is more and more about this. And of course, there are references in our world, which is very hard for other people to read in our art world, so to speak, like for example, the Dirk, the opera singer who comes in, he also makes in this concert, he also makes jokes which we might not make. But what does it reflect on me that I know all these references? What does it say about me that I know every little detail how to behave in that art context or in the art world? I found that quite interesting. And when you bring a situation or you have actors to act inept or don't fit into this our norm to behave in certain situations. That's what I found very interesting.
You said also you repeated several of these performances over the years. We've seen it probably with the example of Freeze. Also, those contexts can change. So in a way, it's never exactly the same performance, or do you feel like it's in a way still the dynamics and the codes are so strong that it doesn't make a real difference in a reiteration?
Well, I mean, that one I did 2010, and that wasn't a special situation. But then I thought that still that work, if I'm answering your question, I don't know, but I still thought that that work could work almost 8 years later, but just as a human emotion where you single out a specific single out one emotion from everything you feel and make that as a 2 hours performance or theater, or I don't know really what to say, but because you can't, that is the ultimate emotion to be consider yourself as a failure. So of course all of these performances are some kind of dysfunctional behavior.
I'm really also encouraging our audience to join this unique opportunity to or this discussion and this unique opportunity to talk to Annika. In the meantime, we have a question from Svetlana. Lots of your projects are connected to openings. We know that artists are also socialites, networkers, and belong to certain clubs. What role do these aspects of the artwork play in your practice? Your own practice? Yeah?
Pardon?
Yeah, in your own practice.
In my, I don't understand, that I've done many of them are taking place at a specific opening, yeah, right? I don't understand really the question. Svetlana, you can...
We can give her the word.
I mean, when you are at an opening, that is the moment where you have to behave or act as in a specific situation. So it's a very extreme situation. I mean, if you make a fool out of yourself on an opening, lots of people will see it. And
yeah, I'm in this kind of strange situation that we still kind of have these openings of vernissage, as it's known as well. And it's somehow a very important part of the exhibition, even it's not, because mostly people who go to the openings don't look as much at the arts, but more around who is around.
Exactly.
And I just kind of wonder how, because lots of your things also needed a certain attention, and that's probably why you chose the opening nights for the projects. But I just kind of wonder the role of the artist as a socialite. Does it somehow also play a role in your work?
Absolutely. And now we have Nils Röller here, that I actually made a film of my, that was one of my absolute first exhibition in his space in an apartment in Berlin. And I showed photographs, but I had in one room, but we were all in the kitchen. And because that's where the beer was. And we couldn't see any of my art. And I found, for some years ago, the footage from that opening. And I had forgotten about that, but I found it, and I had put a camera back then on the on a shelf in the kitchen. So I filmed all the audience coming in and out in the beginning of the show, and then it was fully crowded, but only in the kitchen. I had not filmed any of my work, only the crowd. And I'm so happy because of that, because what we will remember many times, it might be, as you say, not the work, we are not around it, but the gathering around the work. The gathering around is what's so romantic about openings in their way. After that, when I found this film, I put music on it, and I made a short film called The First Show, which was then shown in a place, independent place, in another independent place in Berlin, I think 22 years later, a few years ago. And so I showed that piece, and I invited so many as I could remember the names of that who was at the very first show to come, and they appeared, many of them, not Nils, but he wanted, I think, and but his partner Thomas Ravens. And I put another camera at the corner of that gallery space, and all the people came in again, and I made another film, which was then later called To Be Shown in 22 Years, If We Are Still Alive. So it's an act of the kind of sentimental time passes, but we have memories or something.
On a different aspect, you mentioned that often it's not revealed that this is a performance, these are performers. It might be more or less obvious depending on the performance that it could be the case that these are actors, but what's your take on this credit you're kind of denying also during those events, or what is most important, that people just have a sensation without really knowing or recognizing it is a performance, or that they can discover it afterwards when reading a pamphlet, or how is your take on this?
Well, I could say that what I like myself when I approach a work or a gallery or anything, when I approach it, I would want to have that phrase in my mind, hit my mind, is what is it? And when it's an element of surprise that develops a kind of curiosity, which is very sincere, I had to find out what this work is about. If I don't feel like that, if I don't have what is it question in my mind, then I have to read, the press release or something, and maybe the work develops further in my brain. But I think that now I lost my thread. So of course I'm working with a surprise. Of course, when you say why are these women standing in the way, and of how annoying they are, and then of course when they pass, they will see this big poster, and will be surprised or maybe laugh, about themselves because they have been fooled in for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the kind of surprise, or which is with humor in generally, that you laugh because you are surprised about something which has breaking a kind of norm.
Maybe on that note, I first have a question by Nico Sebastian Meyer, and then I will give the word to Gloria Galovic, and we also have Chris Hammer in the queue. So Nico asks, for example, in the performance Seven Women, which you just mentioned, it was very often performed, but was it important for you at which opening of which show? Is it specific shows you would target, or is it just the shows you're invited to?
I mean, the first, they're all institutions or museums. And of course, this work is about, these women are standing in the way because many of the women's work in the museums and institutions they keep on going to and are membership to and everything, none of they are not represented in the museum as well. Their work is not represented in the museums. So of course there's a political comment to that. And so there are front of museums, or there are situations where there, and I am invited to that specific performance. That's why it's only the first one was invented. It was the one in Berlin. That was the one which was just made for that situation. But then it was just rumored, and people invited me to show it.
And maybe from the same end, also a question regarding how do the other artists included in such shows react to your performance, or do they take issue with the 7 women blocking the entrance?
Well, yeah, there have been occasions where some men have been upset, and maybe they've been in the films, but I always taken that out. I don't want to make anybody, feel stupid, or because there have been men, specifically men, because apparently they find it hard to go through a bunch of 70-year-old women, or going through them, ask them to step aside. And because they have a certain authority when they're standing in this group, and everybody has problems to go through them, so go by them and try to ask them to move away.
The fellow exhibiting artists in this in those situations of the same show would not have any problem with you kind of intervening with this performance.
Oh, well, they are standing outside. So yes, in the entrance, they're not standing in front of somebody's work or entrance to a specific room or anything. They're just standing in the front of the main door. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they're not damaging their work, I don't think.
And now I will give the word to Gloria. Just a second.
Hey, I was first a remark, maybe I was reminded of that, what Svetlana also said, this vernissage feel. And I thought that with this time spent of performing, that it hasn't not changed. I mean, like in the titles, when you use embarrassed men or like woman standing in a way, it has a political impact by choosing woman or men, but there are, in a vernissage, there are always like people standing in a way, people acting embarrassing, people acting really lovely. And I thought, this is such a loaded continuing time with these questions of social and political performance, stigma, and perception. And I was asking myself, where do you, because you know what's going on, where do you attach a role to yourself? Because you know what's going on? Are you kind of a director? Also, I thought about maybe then reproducing a perception in showing videos where you cut out some things like men being really annoyed by women standing in a way, and also there's some kind of editing going on now. So if you had to tell us which role do you believe you kind of put in when you give directions for a performance, could you tell us more about that?
I direct everything, and I decide everything, and I cut out everything I don't want to be in the films. And directing is, of course, I let them when I say. The interesting thing for the Inept 5, for example, I have to tell them you should try to act as you are the actor who have all this fear and you are inept. And then I study how they do that, which is really, really interesting. But sometimes they just look bored, and that's not the point. They should be more active and useless and overact their actions, like feeling too much, so then I can interfere. But what often the problem when you're doing performances is that the camera is revealing the performance. So you had to have sort of a hidden camera. So you had to be quiet with the filmer, which is difficult. But sometimes I have been filming when I've seen a situation can occur when somebody might feel like they are getting angry about not being served properly, when maybe it's spilled all over their clothes or, then I try to make sure that this audience feel that, I tell them that, no, it's a performance, so you just take it easy, something. But I'm definitely directing everybody, and but I also let it all happen. But and the 7 women standing in the way, sometimes there has been conflicts between the women, how aggressive you should be, and I don't want them to be aggressive. I want them to be very gentle, just oblivious. They don't know it, they're just occupied by drinking and be happy and talking. But sometimes there have been occasions where there have been really, some women have been pushing the audience and the visitors, and then I have to say something. If that was did I answer your question? Okay, I can't hear you, but.
Sorry, texting. Yes. Also, I was thinking of it's not just performing, because you leave it be, as you said. On the same time, I was thinking maybe it goes too far, but about what is real and what is not, and if performative and create an identity or bodies moving in a space, let's say, as looking at it as a performative aspect, as a time aspect. So maybe here in deaf, how do you see your everyday life? Do you tend more towards these theories about it's performative, or does performance, because for me it has a sense that it's fluid somehow, and that this is a core point?
I don't know what to answer. I don't. I don't know what to answer to that. Can you say it again, or make it more clear, like Gloria?
Do you believe that living is partly performative, or that is wholly performative?
Wow, I never thought about this. Fantastic. What do you think? That sounds really. Are you a performing artist?
Yeah, I guess we are performing all the time. I guess I would put it in a whole, but then the question is what the whole is, and yeah.
Wow, I never thought about that, but I will think about it. Maybe have an answer to next time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm unmuting now Chris, who had a question.
Hi, Annika. I'm joining from Taiwan, so sorry, I'm already here in bed, but I had a really lighthearted 1 hour. I laughed a lot, and I was, it was very nice to see yourself laughing at some old art that you made long time ago, but it still makes you laugh. So at the same time, a lot of those works are quite political also, so they make you think at the same time.
Right.
So my feeling is, this whole thing is just you laughing at all of us, or laughing with all of us, because you're directing it, right? So I'm thinking of, the situational comedy of Caac, or maybe the TikTok videos of today. I think they're all like similar to what you do. So my question is, can you share with us maybe some of your own references, or who do you look, whose work do you look at these days, and who makes you laugh, or who makes you feel emotions, and maybe we can also look at that. Thank you.
Well, I don't make any work to make people laugh, I think, but the specific performance piece I've shown you now is they come from real anger. I've been angry, and I think when you are angry, you get really sad, and I think that when you are sad, you have lots of pain, and from pain you somehow try to process and go up and try to rescue yourself by some humorous aspects, and then suddenly you have your artwork presented. So when I think about, for example, Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton, I still laugh a lot about their work, but I do it more when the older I get, because I found them, and I don't know why that is, that I found slapstick, like I think actually the Inept Five has elements of slapstick, as they are so clumsy and useless. But I think that Buster Keaton, I thought when I was young, I was just thinking that that's not so funny. But now I cry of laughter when I watch it, because there's so much effort into to create these works back then, and also they are so much pain behind them, I think, and that's why I like them. But I think that when it comes to the Inept Five, it's also this extension of these 2 or 3 hours opening, where they are so useless, makes the work move from slapstick to real sad work. To me, I laugh, but I think it's a very sad work. But I think most things which are funny a long time, maybe is related, humors might be related to, or laughter is related to a certain amount of time, because why is a joke just funny once or maybe twice, then it's not funny anymore. But as you say, when I see his effort, that opera singer, when he sings my song, la 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 la, like so determined, even that makes me almost on the bridge of crying, because he's so determined and devoted to his act. And that's beauty in itself, and that is sad, and then that's even funny. Somehow like that. I don't know. I haven't studied. I would like to study the science of humor, because it's really interesting subject. But
that's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Chris. And I have a maybe almost last question already, but touching on another subject in your work, because we haven't talked about it so much yet. The first work you showed us was in collaboration with your mother. And when I checked your homepage, I also looked at the hobbies section, where one finds another photograph of your mother. And that made me really wonder. Maybe it also connects a bit to the question, where do you draw the line between your own life, your personal relationships, and these constructed roles in socially coded spheres. We often also see students who start from a very personal experience and then tell us that they want to make it more universal and draw out the very personal, cross out the very personal aspect. So how is this relationship with your mother evolving and influencing your art?
Well, I don't think there are. I think that performance work is representing one daughter who has a mother who makes drawings of her. And I think that's very universal, even though she was my mother and I happen to be an artist who's invited my mother. But she's just a representation of one of all these mothers who look at their daughters in a specific way, or think they have the right access to their daughters or sons. But on my workshop with mothers and fathers, I will show examples of my daughters who have been working with their parents in a very personal way. But I don't think I belong to them at all. In that personal, but not private. I don't think it's... But that picture of the hobbies, for example, I have hobbies. It's just that I've taken lots of photographs, but well, that's another thing. But Leicester films I made, she also appeared, but she's still only a representation of a very typical Swedish. Oh, she's not typical at all, actually. She's very unique, but she was. She's a mother. A woman. Sometimes she was not even a mother in my films. She's just a crazy person who sings my songs. So, so I don't.
So this workshop will take place in June and is part of the MFA studies program. So the students can look forward to that.
Yes.
We are happy and lucky enough we had the opportunity to get an insight into your work tonight. So I would say, since you stuck so closely to the time limit of your talk, I don't want to overextend, although we could discuss many aspects still going on, and I will just make a last call for a very last question, otherwise we will come to an end. Okay, I would say that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, Annika Ström. It's been a pleasure meeting you over several talks, and especially tonight. We all look forward to having you join the study program in June. And to the audience, of course, also thank you very much for being together with us tonight. And I cannot reveal yet or give you appetizers who's on the list for next semester, but of course there will be another art talks lecture series, conversations. I'm already looking very much forward to that, and I hope you'll all join us in this. So for tonight, have a lovely evening and bye-bye.